This tiny PC is really impressive. This packs the Core i9-13900 HK processor, comes with 32GB of DDR5 RAM, and a blazing fast 1TB of PCIe Gen 4 NVMe SSD. And it fits in the palm of your hand. So what does that actually mean? Can this little PC handle 4K editing, heavy productivity workflows, can connect to multiple up to 3 displays, or even do some light gaming? Well, that's the purpose of this video, so let's find out. So why even buy a mini PC in 2025? Honestly, it comes down to efficiency, versatility. This little box barely takes up any space in a room, and it runs quietly on your desk, sipping on power, compared to a full desktop that uses a lot of power and energy and uses a lot of space. Yes, inside you are getting a laptop grade performance, which is perfect for working on spreadsheets, editing 4K videos, editing photos, or hosting even a small home server. Since these mini PCs barely consume any power at idle, you can let them run 24/7 for media streaming or even remote access without spiking up your power bill. Mini PCs are becoming more mainstream by delivering performance similar to what you can get from a big desktop without the noise or the bulk. Now, I already unboxed this earlier to do some testing and doing some benchmarks, but here's what you get inside the box. You get the mini PC itself, you get one HDMI cable, and you get the power adapter itself. Now let's take a look at the ports and connectivity because this little box is surprisingly well equipped. Let's start from the front. So you get the power button, you get a headphone jack, you get a USB-C port, and you get a USB 3 Gen 2 port. Also, you have the clear CMOS here that you can use a pin to hit and reset BIOS in case you mess anything up. On the back, you get the power input, you get another audio jack, which is mainly for, connecting to external speakers. You get one USB-C port. Now this one can connect up to a 4K display. And you get one DisplayPort 1.4, and you get an HDMI. You get additional 2 USB 3 Gen 2 ports, and you get a LAN, which is 2.5 gigabits per second. So this is a lot better than 1 gig network. For wireless, this PC comes with Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2. So whether you're gaming, streaming, or just working with your wireless peripherals, you'll stay connected and covered. Now let's take a look inside by opening this device up. To open this, all you gotta do is flip this over, and there are 4 screws on the bottom that you can undo. So to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and start opening this up. Now taking a look inside, access is super simple. Just remove the 4 screws around the corner and then lift up and you are inside. Then you got to remove 4 more screws around the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this heatsink and the fan should lift off easily. Now you can go in and unplug it, which I'm not going to this time, to further remove it. So inside you get 2 DDR5 memory slots, 16 gigabytes each, totaling of 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. Now you can upgrade this further to a maximum of 48 gigabytes total. Storage wise, you get 1 terabyte of NVMe SSD, plus you get an extra slot of additional storage space if you need it. Both slots support up to PCIe Gen 4x4, and that's pretty good because these are really fast NVMe SSDs. Both slots support drives up to 4 terabytes each, so expanding down the road is going to be super simple. Also inside, there's the Core i9-13900 HK processor that runs at a base frequency of 3 GHz with a boost clock of 5.2 GHz. And the Core i9-13900K has 14 cores and 20 threads. That can be really beneficial during gaming or, for high productivity use cases like video editing, doing some, regular work and stuff like that. Also for the graphics card, this comes with the integrated Intel Iris Xe graphics, which I did check out, and surprisingly, I was able to do some light gaming on low resolution settings, so that was a pretty impressive part. All right, let's talk about benchmark performance because this little box is way faster than it looks. For most comparisons, I'll be comparing this to the M4 Mac Mini, the base model, because in terms of pricing and performance, they are quite similar. First benchmark I did was using Cinebench R32, and on the multi-score test, this PC really flexes those 14 cores and 20 threads, landing a score same ballpark as most of the performance-driven laptops. For Cinebench R23, the single core result was 1858. The multi-core score was 12,656. If we compare this to the M4 Mac Mini, this is around 14% slower than the Mac Mini and around 6% slower than the Mac Mini when it comes to multi-core scores. For a Windows device, this is pretty impressive for being such a small form factor. Next, I ran Geekbench 6 and got a single score of 2500 and a multi-score of 11,228. Again, when I compared this with the Mac Mini is around 30% faster on single core and about 23% faster on multi-scores. So far, Mac Mini has been winning. For the next synthetic test, I ran Crystal Mark on the 1TB NVMe SSD. The speeds were lightning fast with sequential read-write speeds that can make loading apps, games, or moving files feel instant. For the read score, I got around 5,185 megabytes per second read, and for write, I got around 4,753 megabytes per second. When I compare this with the Mac Mini, this device is around 50% faster than the Mac Mini. And if you do any of the light editing or big file transfers, you'll definitely feel the performance bump that you get from transferring files or rendering. I also ran some other benchmark tests like running Prime 95 for over 10 minutes just to see how this PC holds up or it doesn't crash. And surprisingly, it did pretty good. The core temperatures did go up over 70 degrees centigrade, but other than that, everything ran pretty smoothly. I even rendered some multiple videos and just to see if everything seems to work fine, and most were 4K files, and actually everything worked just fine. Now to check the graphics card performance, and by the way, this comes with the Intel Iris Xe graphics card, which is an integrated graphics card. I ran the Furmark benchmark tool. When I ran that, I got an average of 22 frames per second on default settings. So clearly this mini PC is not focused for gaming. And yeah, that's pretty much it for all the synthetic benchmarks that I did on this PC. Let me know in the comments below if you would like me to test with other benchmarking tools, and I'll sure do that next time in my next videos. All right, let's clear this up. First of all, this mini PC is not a gaming PC. It's mainly geared towards productivity use cases, but I thought why not just try doing some gaming and see what results I get. First up, I played Counter-Strike 2 at 1080p using medium settings. For the first few minutes, they were a little rough because, as you start Counter-Strike 2 for the very first time, it has to do some frame generation, and only after that it settles down. So the first few minutes were very, brutal, but after things got smoothed out, I averaged around 60 frames per second with a low of 56 frames per second and a high of 62 frames per second, which is totally playable, and the gaming was overall responsive. I did play for a couple of minutes and had no issues overall. The next game that I tested was Cyberpunk 2077. This is where the integrated graphics card gets pushed really hard. Now the settings I used were 1080p again, and everything was set to low. I averaged around 32 frames per second with a minimum of 29 and a high of 35 frames per second. And honestly, the gameplay was surprisingly smooth, no major stutters or lag. Everything was playable, granted that everything was at the lowest setting. Then I tried Red Dead Redemption 2, another AAA title, again on low settings, 1080p, which gave me an average of 40 frames per second, which did dip below 26 frames and peaked around 47 frames per second. So overall, very similar experience to Cyberpunk. I played around 30 minutes in free roam mode and I did not hit any major issues. Finally, the last game that I tested was City Skylines, and that game averaged around 39 frames per second, dropping to lowest of 25 and peaking at 50 frames per second. For a city builder, that was totally fine, and the gameplay felt smooth and enjoyable for long sessions. So yeah, you can game on this mini PC, but as long as you play at 1080p on low to medium settings and playing with older titles, then you should be fine. This PC is a productivity powerhouse at first and casual gaming second. Only buy this PC if productivity is your main use case and you do occasional gaming like once in a blue moon, then you could definitely use this. For productivity, the Trigkey I13 has been surprisingly capable. I've got it hooked up to my LG 5K 2K ultra-wide monitor. Having such a big resolution gives me the ability to multitask seamlessly by having multiple windows open, and I can multitask all at the same time. Now, speaking of editing, I tested editing 4K videos using DaVinci Resolve, and it handled doing basic cuts and scrubbing through timeline without a hitch. So if you're someone that does medium to low video editing, then this mini PC should work just fine in your use case without any issues. I also did some working on it using spreadsheets, developing some code. All worked fine on this machine without any issues. The built-in Wi-Fi 6 keeps you connected throughout the day. The connection is very stable, and pairing with Bluetooth 5.2, my wireless keyboard and mouse seem to just work fine without having any issues. If your workflow involves photo editing in Photoshop or Lightroom, this i13 can handle everything comfortably. Especially when you pair this with a color accurate monitor, everything works pretty good. And if you're like me and judging cloud storage or large file transfers, connecting to your 2.5 gig Ethernet is a big plus because I can move big files from my NAS server onto this device or do vice versa. And even in a home lab setup, it's way faster than a standard gigabit. So you can see all these features that this mini PC comes with come into play when you are talking or using productivity on this device. Now, when it comes to power consumption, this PC does use a fair bit of power. And under full CPU load, it's going around 70 to 80 watts from the wall. Thermals on the i13 are pretty solid. Under full load, the CPU peaks around 72 degrees centigrade, and at idle, it's around 39 degrees centigrade or Celsius, however you want to say it. Now, the fan is noticeable even at idle speeds because you have this right on your desk and you can definitely hear the fan. And under load, the fan does ramp up, so it gets loud quickly. So I would advise probably tucking this either under your desk or as far away from your desk as possible. But if you're not bothered by the noise and you're comfortable with, how the laptop fans sound, then this should be just fine. All right, so let's wrap this up with some pros and cons about this Trigkey i13 mini PC. Here are the pros. This PC is ultra fast because it's got that Core i9-13900 HK processor. That is amazing for productivity and multitasking. This PC supports high-res displays, including working with my LG 5K 2K, and you can connect up to 3 different monitors seamlessly. It also comes pre-packaged with 32 gigabytes of RAM, a PCIe Gen 4 NVMe storage, and it's very snappy out of the box. When I set up Windows, it literally took 5 minutes from booting to getting to the desktop, which is quite fast compared to all the other mini PCs I've tested before. Also, this device is upgradable because you can plug in 1 extra NVMe SSD, and that's expandable up to 4 terabytes on each slot. Also, the RAM can be upgraded, so if you're thinking of home lab use cases running multiple virtual machines, this is a very good PC to do that. And the most surprising thing for me was that I was able to play some games which I've never been able to do just on the CPU in the past. Now, I was able to play games like Cyberpunk, Red Dead Redemption 2, Counter-Strike 2, on low settings using the iGPU, and everything worked fine, which was very surprising. Now let's talk some cons. The fan can get noticeably loud under full load, especially if you keep this on your desk. Even at idle speeds, it is noticeable, but no more than a laptop fan. The price is slightly on the higher side than an entry-level mini PC, but you're paying for performance because you are getting 14 cores and 20 threads of Intel Core i9 processor. In closing, I would like to say that this PC is really good contender when it comes to having a mini PC for productivity use cases. If you're looking for an alternative to a Mac mini and you want Windows 11, then this PC is a very good choice for that. I do recommend it. Okay guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Do let me know if you have questions in the comments below, and I'll sure remember to answer them. And also remember to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in my next video.